What's going on, y'all? This is Chris with NoLimitSquad, your personal isochain and fitness vlogging channel. Today we're going to figure out how we can find our dynamic equivalent for working out in the gym and our isochain number. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say we pull a 100 right on the bicep curl. Bicep curl is always like the easiest example to go into. It's just right there, you know what I mean? It's just right. 100 pounds of force on a bicep curl. What does that mean for your dynamic barbell or easy bar equivalent? If you pulled a 100-pound 6-second contraction on the isochain, what would you pull in the gym? So let's figure that out. All right, so there are plenty of 1RM. If you guys are not familiar with 1RM, it means 1 rep max. With X amount of weight, this is the most that you can lift once. You cannot get to. Once is the only thing you can do with that amount of weight. That's 1 rep max, 1 RM. So going from your 1 RM, then you can figure out what 60 to 85% of your strength is with that number, and then that's how you can find out what your reps can be per set. Now, there's a little bit of a difference between absolute strength and 1 rep max. Here's the difference. The most basic difference is that absolute strength is the amount of force you can generate, period. That means that it's still not moving. So if I were to push up against this wall here, right? I'm not gonna move this wall, but this is the maximum amount of force that I can push right now into this wall. That is called absolute strength. 1 rep max would be the amount of strength required to move it once. Does that make sense? Now the wall is different. Now if I had a dumbbell, maybe it'd be a little different, like a 100-pound dumbbell or something heavy. Like, for example, let's just say my max is like 90 pounds for 1 rep. That was like a year and a half ago. So I don't know if that's different now. Maybe it's weaker, maybe it's stronger. My guess is probably strong because of all the isochain work. If my dumbbell 1RM is 90 pounds, what's the absolute strength? It's probably a little higher than that, right? Now that's just for 1 arm. Now if we go with barbell would be the most accurate weightlifting device to compare the isochain to. I would do the easy bar or the barbell bicep curl and compare it to the isochain bicep curl, because I'm using both my hands on the isochain, not just one hand. Does that make sense? So absolute strength, the maximum amount of force that we can generate. Now 1 RM means the maximum amount of force required to move once dynamically. All right, so this is like the you know, that's what the 1 RM is. And you can only do it once, because after you do that 1 rep, it's shot, it's done. So what I did here is I went, like, I track all my workouts on Google Sheets, okay? So now this includes my isochain work. So when I do the row, here's a video of me doing the row right here. So this is a high row, but it feels exactly like the isochain row, okay? The only difference is my hand placement. But with the high row, I got 6 reps at 360 pounds. So that's 4 plates on each side. After that, the range of motion starts to really suffer. So what I did was I put that weight into the 1 rep max calculator that you can find on Google. Just Google 1 rep max calculator and you'll find it. I just went to the bodybuilding.com one, as that's the highest ranking one. I put in 360. It calculated that my 1 RM is 424. So then I took 60 and 85% of that, 254 for 60%, and 360 for 85%. So that means that my high rows on the dynamically at the gym, I'm doing rows at 85% of my maximum strength. Now with the isochain, if you check this out here, I have a 6-second contraction. You got to figure the 2 seconds of rise time going into the contraction, and then seconds 3, 4, 5, and 6 are the maximum amount of contraction with a slow decline afterwards. So my most recent isochain row was 443. Now I've been averaging in the mid 400s for rows now. 443 for my absolute strength for my row. My dynamic 1 RM is 424. So 424 for my 1 rep max on the row, and 443 for my absolute strength. So that means with 19 pounds more, I wouldn't be able to move the high row. It just wouldn't move. But that would be my maximum amount of force that I could generate, 443. Am I making sense so far? This is really interesting stuff, because Now I know what numbers to look for in my clients and myself when I'm training. It's like, okay, this is my dynamic equivalent, so on Isochain, you know, this kind of makes sense. And so far, all of them have been consistent. I'm not going to go through each one on this video, but all of them have been consistent. My squat, my front raise, my shoulder press, all that, they have all followed the same principle with the absolute strength versus PR. I just want to use the row for the sake of the video and for times. I just don't want to keep repeating things and be one of those YouTubers that are just wasting time just to get, I don't know. I never really agree with that. Y'all get it, right? By the way, when I pulled for the high row in that video earlier, it was smooth. I mean, I could definitely feel Hebb's rule coming through. Muscle fibers that fire together, wire together. It just felt smooth. Normally with that amount of weight, it feels kind of jerky, like I gotta continue to pull it through like little notches of, you know what I mean? But this was nice and smooth. Now, don't get me wrong, I still had the muscular fatigue. Complete muscle fatigue stopped me from pulling after 6 reps. I just had nothing left, but it was a smooth high row. I really haven't experienced that much. I mean, it was a weird feeling, and I knew it was the Isochain because I've been doing that exercise for years. So I know how it normally feels. What I'm really interested in are the people that are doing Isochain only workouts. So if maybe you're just doing the Promethean, or maybe you're doing the Dragon or whatever, and you're not even using the gym at all, I would be interested to see what your numbers are. And then one day, if you just went into the gym and it's like, okay, my row on the Isochain was 200 pounds. So if your row on the Isochain is 200 pounds, go to the 1 rep max calculator, and then you go to 60% or 85%, go to 85%, and that's the number that you can do 6 or 8 times and see if it holds true. If it does, this is very interesting. This is very interesting because those that are not able to lift dynamically, we still know what their capabilities would be dynamically. Like I said, this is still new stuff. But absolute strength and 1RM are just a tiny bit different because one is just the amount of force required to push or pull something and it still won't move versus actually moving the object once. All right, so of course the absolute strength, the amount of force being generated is going to be higher because as soon as we start moving stuff, it takes away from us. Now we're getting really scientific and nerdy. So what are your numbers? I always like to ask what some of the squad numbers are. And I know we see me in here working out and stuff, but I just like to hear what everybody's doing with this. We're coming up on 5 months. I don't know, I'm interested. I like to see numbers. I like to see people out here killing it, especially our No Limit Squad members. Go ahead and type in the comments below, like, what do you get? Like, have you used a method like this to track your numbers, to pace yourself in the gym, to figure out what your weight should be in the gym? I mean, that alone is huge. I mean, you can really figure out what weights you need to use dynamically when using the Isochain. It's like, okay, well, if this is that number, then I can mess with these weights in the gym. That is awesome. I mean, that's a hell of a big deal. That's a big deal. All right, guys, go ahead and drop them in the comment section below. We're all a squad here. We're all playing for the same team. Let us know. All right, guys, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to drop a like. Go ahead and comment. If you're not yet part of the No Limit Squad, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Come join the squad with us. We'll see you in the next one. Peace.